Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another Westplex Weekend. I'm Steve Casper, and I've got with me Mr. Nutrition himself, David Gall. Welcome to What About Nutrition, the show that explores the link between nutrition and optimum health, and that's on everybody's mind these days. And this show also asks the overlooked question, what about nutrition? What can you do? Every day there's more scientific evidence and research regarding the critical importance of nutrition for the promotion of optimum health. On What About Nutrition, this radio program will focus today on dietary supplements, herbs, vitamins, and homeopathic remedies, what they are, what they do, and how to use them. We'll also discuss diet and other aspects of living a healthy lifestyle in the 21st century. Are you interested? Well, stay tuned right here, right now, for the next half hour. Your host is David Gall, owner of O'Fallon Nutrition, and he's a graduate of Washington University and Huntington College of Health Sciences Comprehensive Nutritional Program. Remember, always consult your health care practitioner before beginning any new supplements or other changes to your lifestyle. The purpose of the show is to inform, educate, and entertain, not to diagnose, treat, or prevent any disease. And I certainly hope that we can entertain in there. That's the one thing in my script there, David. I'm not so sure about that, but we do have. I think it's a great show, and we're really glad to have you on Westplex Radio. And boy, this heat has been something that's added a lot of stress to a lot of people. And I understand we're going to be talking about the brain today and some of the nutritional chemistry.
That's right. Yeah, today is definitely going to be entertaining, Steve, because we're going to talk about Brain Chemistry 101 and a subject called neurotransmitters, which are basically the hormones in our brain that transmit our thoughts and regulate our mood and all sorts of other cool things. And there's something that a lot of people aren't aware of, which is that our brain hormones are actually made from the food we eat. So this is a perfect, what about nutrition concept. Whenever I hear people complaining about depression or their mood or lack of focus or all of these other issues, I can't help but think, what about nutrition? This is the primary issue. This is all biochemistry. And I think if somebody is suffering from any of these issues, this is a topic that is well worth their time to pay attention to.
See, I think that people like me, for instance, before this topic came up and I knew we were going to do this, you never think really about the brain when you're thinking about what you eat or what your nutrition is, or even buying supplements or vitamins. Right. You just don't think about the brain as much as your organs, your body, your fat, your muscle.
Exactly.
So this is going to be fascinating.
It's all about the brain. Our brain is made out of tissue just like the rest of our body. It's mostly fat. Then it's protein after that. And it runs off of blood sugar, so which is a great transition to the first part of our topic. I'd love to start by describing some of the main amino acids that are incorporated into our brain chemistry.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And when I say amino acids, what I want everybody to think of is the building blocks of protein. So when you picture an egg, or you picture a chicken, or you picture a scoop of whey protein powder, basically that is composed of these little building blocks known as amino acids. And there's approximately 20 of them. And 9 of them are required by the human body. The human body can make the others from the first 9, but we have to get 9 of them out of our diet or they're not there, and eventually we would die, actually, without them.
Wow.
So the main amino acids we're going to talk about today are glutamine, tryptophan, tyrosine, phenylalanine, and then there's another amino acid called GABA that we'll get to in a moment. In a nutshell, these are the amino acids that are required to make some of our most important brain hormones. And I'm going to start with glutamine, which is a little different than the others. So the point about glutamine is that our brain can only run off of one substance. This is important for everyone to understand. And that substance is blood sugar, also known as glucose. So when we hear about our blood glucose levels, etc., one of the things that represents is food for our brain. And when we run low on glucose for the brain, the body has to actually go into emergency mechanisms in order to raise it. So you've heard of people getting a blood sugar crash, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, when we get a blood sugar crash, our body releases stress hormones like adrenaline, which causes the liver to release a little bit of stored blood sugar, and that automatically raises our blood sugar. The problem is that we get a huge adrenaline release. Have you ever seen a little kid that probably needed a snack throw a huge temper tantrum?
Yep.
You know, have you ever seen an adult that probably needed a snack through a huge temper tantrum?
Yes.
I think I've personally been responsible
too.
for some on my own. So here's a really, really cool fact. Glutamine, the amino acid, is the only substance besides glucose that can feed the brain. Okay? So we can actually use glutamine to help stabilize blood sugar levels. And of course, if we eat sufficient protein in the morning, that can help provide it as well. But we'll come back to it a little bit later so I can list these guys first. So then we have tryptophan. Tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin in our brain. And of course, we've all heard of serotonin. We've heard of drugs like Prozac and Zoloft that are SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. But long story short, we actually make our serotonin from an amino acid found in our high-protein foods, and that's tryptophan. And of course, everybody's heard the old you eat turkey at Thanksgiving, you get tired from the tryptophan.
That's where I've heard that word.
Yeah, or tryptophan in milk has a reputation for making you tired. And
Yeah.
both turkey and milk happen to be foods that are a bit higher in tryptophan. And then moving on, there's an amino acid that also starts with the letter T called tyrosine. And tyrosine is fascinating. It has a little friend named phenylalanine, so they tend to be talked about together. And tyrosine and phenylalanine are the precursors to hormones in the brain known as catecholamines. Authors like Julia Ross of The Mood Cure refer to the catecholamines as the three cats.
Yeah.
And the three cats are dopamine, adrenaline, and norepinephrine. So these are your get up and go, your focus hormones, your positive mood, your sparkle, your zest for life.
Didn't Nora Ephron get an Academy Award a couple years ago? She sounds like an actress.
Is
to
that
me.
Nora Ephron you're talking
I
about?
guess so. I don't know. I'm trying.
Almost
I'm,
the same spelling when you see him on
I'm
paper.
trying to fit into this entertainment category we had at the
that's
beginning
all right.
of the show, but that's
plenty
all right.
of fun. Plenty of
Sorry
fun.
about that.
Well, we could always talk about some alcohol and antioxidants like last week.
yeah, that's great.
Well, so these guys are the precursors to these three cats, which are your sparkle, your zest, your focus hormones. And of course, I'd like to point out, if folks aren't inferring this already, sufficient protein is required to make these brain chemicals because the protein is what provides these amino acids. And a great way to set yourself up for carbohydrate cravings and mood issues or sleep problems later in the day is to start off your day without enough food, and specifically without enough protein.
So a breakfast of eggs and bacon is usually going to be pretty good for
Well,
setting up your day mentally.
In some ways, yes, in the sense that the
w-
eggs are high in tyrosine, actually. They're a
Okay.
higher tyrosine food, and they're have all complete amino acids, all 9 that we require. So they would. I would probably combine a good quality source of carbohydrate with those eggs, something along the lines of brown rice, hot cereal, or even oatmeal if you can handle a little gluten. And some people get wild and crazy and do things like beans or berries would work. So they've got all sorts of options there. So the short answer is yes, Steve. I can't make much of a health case for bacon.
Yeah.
Bacon's pretty high.
Well, it
and
tastes good, man.
You know, right, exactly.
Smells good, tastes good. It's
Precisely. But what I can say is that the bacon isn't going to really add anything that's going to really horribly detract from your mood, etc., which certain foods like wheat in some cases can.
Okay, so what
gluten.
so you're talking about if you now, because I'm guilty of this. Lots of us skip breakfast. Okay?
Right.
A lot of us do. Now, I'm taking more of a high protein, low carb thing going on right now
Yep.
in my life, and it's working. But at the same time, I am kind of concerned about breakfast. I really am.
Right.
So, what would be the ideal breakfast that most people should eat? Did you say? I mean, are you saying
Protein with a little carbs and a little good fat.
little? Okay, there you
And
go.
that's why you always hear me pounding the subject of the whey protein shakes with some essential fatty acids and some fruit mixed in. The basic gist being that they're kind of an ideal way to get that perfect meal without bringing in things like gluten or artificial flavors or sugar or things like that. But that said, if you're just eating food, I don't think that there's anything wrong with getting some good eggs from some cage-free chickens or chickens that are fed high omega-3 food, for example. There's a lot of that available in all the grocery stores now.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, but
See,
some
I
good
did not
eggs,
know that.
brown rice, hot cereal. I think that'd be a pretty good breakfast right there. And the reason I say brown rice, hot cereal is there's no gluten in it. So many people have issues with that. You know, we're doing a radio show. If I'm going to recommend something for almost anybody, brown rice, hot cereal, along with some eggs. Another thing that's fun to do is mix brown rice, hot cereal, or oatmeal with a scoop of whey protein powder. That's something that a great personal trainer named Brendan O'Neill, who has a place called Core in St. Charles, which
Yeah.
is awesome, taught me.
But probably not chocolate, maybe vanilla or something.
Yeah, you just mix some vanilla whey protein with
Wow.
some just recently mixed together hot oatmeal or brown rice hot cereal. It just disappears in there, and then
That
you get your
sounds
amino
good.
acids for your brain chemistry, along with for your muscle tissue,
That
along
does
with for
sound
your
good.
immune system.
That does. I'm going to check that out.
And
Yeah.
you don't spike your blood sugar when you do this. When you mix some mix carbohydrates with some protein and a little good fat. The fat and the protein slows the digestion of the carbohydrates,
Is that right?
so they don't shock your system with a bunch of
More
insulin.
of a time release thing.
Right. So, but let's see. We've got about 2 minutes left. So, I want to summarize so that we can come back in part 2 and really hammer on
Yeah.
how to use these. So, glutamine, tryptophan, tyrosine and phenylalanine, and then an amino acid called GABA, which I didn't touch on. GABA is a calming amino acid. It's called an inhibitory neurotransmitter. So unlike these other guys, GABA is a brain chemical in its own right. And in fact, the story goes that when they invented the drug Valium many decades ago, they were trying to find a synthetic alternative to GABA.
Ah.
And let's bear this in mind. Great thing to touch on in the last minute, because this really applies to this subject. You know, folks talk about SSRIs and they say, well, why wouldn't my psychiatrist tell me to use tryptophan or something like that? And first I would point out that until 1987, they did. And then the SSRIs came out and overshadowed it in the marketplace at the same time that tryptophan was pulled off the market. But the issue is that these natural substances cannot be patented. So if you're a pharmaceutical manufacturer, you can patent new inventions. So an SSRI was a new invention. You can patent it, and then your company gets the rights to sell that for, I believe, 17 years, but it's quite a while
Yeah.
until generics can come out. Nobody can patent tryptophan. Nobody can patent tyrosine because they're naturally occurring substances found on Earth. They're not new inventions.
Cool.
They're a lot less profitable. So we're going to lift the veil of this and show everybody something that I think is absolutely amazing, which is that the individual nutrients that our body uses to make specific brain hormones are available over the counter in the United States, and they are safe and effective. And I can't wait till part 2.
Oh, this is a great show. Everybody, you've just tuned in to What About Nutrition with David Gall, Mr. Nutrition from O'Fallon Nutrition. It's an actual place you can go in O'Fallon, Missouri. We'll talk about that near the end of the next break. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to come back with part 2 of What About Nutrition on this Westplex weekend.